The sky turned blood red as the alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere. Captain Ji-ho Kim stood on the roof of the military base, watching as Seoul's tallest buildings crumbled one by one. The aliens called themselves the Dominion. They had arrived 3 days ago, with no warning and no mercy. "Captain, we need to leave now." Taiwan Park, his systems engineer, shouted over the sound of distant explosions. Ji-ho gripped the railing tighter. He had spent 15 years in Korea's special forces. He had trained for wars, terrorist attacks, and natural disasters. But no one had trained him for the end of the world. 5 more minutes, Ji-ho said. He needed to see it happen. He needed to remember. The largest Dominion ship, a massive dark shape that blocked out the sun, positioned itself over the presidential palace. A beam of green light shot downward. When it faded, the palace was gone. Just gone. Not destroyed or burning. Simply erased from existence. "That's it," Ji-ho said, turning away. "Earth has fallen." 3 hours later, Ji-ho led a group of 17 survivors through Seoul's underground tunnels. They had grabbed whatever supplies they could carry: food, medicine, weapons, and communication equipment. "Where are we going?" asked Hana Lee. She was a xenobiologist who had worked for the government. 6 months ago, she had written a report warning about possible alien threats. No one had listened. "The mountains," Ji-ho replied. "We can set up a base there. Stay hidden." Sung Min Choi, their communications expert and former hacker, shook his head. "For how long? These aliens took out our military in less than a day. What chance do we have?" Ji-ho stopped walking and faced the group. They were scared, tired, and hopeless, just like him. But he couldn't show it. "We fight," he said simply. "Not today, not tomorrow, but we will fight. First, we need to understand what we're fighting against." The mountain hideout was an old military bunker built during the Cold War and forgotten by most. Ji-ho had trained here years ago and remembered its location. It took them 3 days of careful travel to reach it, avoiding Dominion patrols that now filled the skies. On the 7th day after the invasion, they picked up a global broadcast. The Dominion's message played on all frequencies in perfect Korean. The same message was being broadcast in every language around the world. "People of Earth," the flat, emotionless voice announced, "your planet is now under Dominion control. Resistance has failed. Your military forces have been neutralized. Your governments have surrendered." Hannah translated the technical terms for the others. "They're implementing something called a human resource protocol. They're categorizing us. Like cattle." The message continued. "All humans will report to processing centers for evaluation and assignment. Category 1, physical labor. Category 2, technical support. Category 3, research subjects. Category 4, unnecessary." A cold silence filled the room. "They're sorting us by usefulness," Ta-One whispered. Ji-ho stood up. "Turn it off." 2 weeks passed. The small group established routines. They set up security systems. They'd rationed food. They monitored Dominion communications using equipment Sung Min had modified. "I've been watching their patrol patterns," Ji-ho said during their evening meeting. "They're methodical. Too methodical. Their ships follow the exact same routes at the exact same times." "That's efficient," Ta-One pointed out. "It's predictable," Ji-ho countered. "And predictable means vulnerable." Hana had spent days analyzing the limited data they had on the aliens. "There's something strange about their technology," she said. "It's advanced, yes, but it's also rigid. There's no variation, no creativity." "What does that mean for us?" Sung Min asked. "I'm not sure yet," Hana admitted. "But if they think in straight lines, maybe we need to think in circles." On the 23rd day, they risked their first mission outside. Ji-ho led a small team to observe a nearby processing center. Through binoculars, they watched as hundreds of humans lined up to be evaluated by tall, thin aliens with gray skin and six-fingered hands. "What are they doing to them?" Ta-1 whispered. They watched as humans were scanned by handheld devices. After scanning, the aliens directed each person to different areas. Most went to a large shuttle marked with a symbol that Hana recognized from the broadcasts as Category 1, Physical Labor. "They're shipping people off-site," Jai-Ho noted, "probably to work camps." A young man near the front of the line suddenly broke away, running toward the perimeter. He didn't get far. A Dominion guard raised a weapon that emitted no sound or visible beam. The running man simply stopped moving, then collapsed. "Did they kill them?" Sung-min asked. They watched as the man was carried to a different shuttle with a unique marking. "No," Hana said quietly. "That's worse. That's the Category 3 shuttle. Research subjects." A month after the invasion, they had their first breakthrough. Sung-min had been working on intercepting Dominion communications. Most were encoded, but he managed to capture some data during transmission. "I can't read most of it," he told the others, "but look at this pattern. It's their command structure. Everything flows from top to bottom. No feedback loops." Ta-1 studied the data. "That's not just their communication style. I think that's how they think. Pure logic chains. No deviation." Hana had been running simulations on her tablet. What if we introduced illogical elements? Human things that don't follow pure logic. "Like what?" Jai-Ho asked. "Like poetry, jokes, metaphors, things that mean more than one thing at once." Jai-Ho considered this. "You think their systems can't process that kind of thinking?" "I think it's worth testing," Hana replied. Their chance came a week later. A small Dominion patrol ship landed near their mountain base to set up a monitoring station. It was a risk, but also an opportunity. Jai-Ho led Ta-1 and two others on a night mission. They approached the ship while its crew of 3 Dominion soldiers worked outside, setting up equipment. "Remember the plan," Jai-Ho whispered. "We need one of their devices intact." When they were in position, Sung-min activated a remote transmitter he had built. It began broadcasting an old Korean folk song, full of metaphors and double meanings. The effect was immediate and strange. The Dominion soldiers stopped working. They tilted their heads as if confused. One of them picked up a communication device and seemed to be reporting the anomaly. "Now," Jai-Ho ordered. They moved quickly, using the distraction to their advantage. The aliens were caught off guard. In the struggle that followed, Jai-Ho and his team managed to neutralize the 3 Dominion soldiers and secure several devices before more could arrive. "Let's move," Jai-Ho ordered as they heard the sound of approaching ships. Back at their base, Hana and Ta-1 studied the captured technology. "This is incredible," Hana said, examining one of the devices. Their neural interface is linked directly to their network, but it's built for perfect logic processing. It has no capacity for handling ambiguity. Ta-1 nodded eagerly. That's why the music affected them. Their systems tried to process multiple layers of meaning and couldn't resolve the contradictions. Jai-Ho looked at the alien technology spread across their table. "Can we use this against them?" "Maybe," Hana said. "But we need to understand more. Why they're here. What they want from Earth." Some men had been working on decoding the data from the captured devices. Suddenly, he called out, "I got something." A partial decryption. They gathered around his screen. Most of the text was still unreadable, but certain phrases were clear. "Human genetic diversity, unique in the sector, salvation potential, harvest protocol." "What does it mean?" Ta-1 asked. Hannah's face had gone pale. "It means Earth wasn't randomly targeted. They came here specifically for us. For something in us." Jai-Ho stared at the screen, then at the faces of his small team. For the first time since the invasion, he felt something close to hope. "Then we have something they need," he said. "And that gives us power." Hanat nodded slowly. They came to erase us, but they don't understand what humans really are. And that, Jai-Ho said, will be their downfall. Outside, the red sky darkened as night fell over Earth's new masters. In the small mountain bunker, the resistance had truly begun. 5 years had passed since the day the sky turned red. Earth was no longer the same planet. Massive alien structures now covered the land where cities once stood. Huge machines pulled resources from the ground day and night, and humans worked as slaves, moving like ants around the Dominion's great projects. But not all humans had given up. Commander Jai-Ho Kim no longer wore a military uniform. His clothes were worn and patched many times. His face had new scars, but his eyes still burned with the same determination they had 5 years ago. He stood at the entrance of what had once been the Korean DMZ. Now it was just another dead zone, avoided by the Dominion because of old radiation that confused their sensors. The perfect place to hide. "Commander," called a voice from behind him. It was Ta-1, now the Resistance's chief technology expert. "The new people have arrived." Jai-Ho nodded. "How many?" 23. Mostly workers who escaped from the Seoul mining facility. One Dominion scientist who wants to help us. Jai-Ho's eyebrows raised. "A Dominion defector? That's new." "Times are changing," Ta-1 said with a small smile. "Even for them." The underground base was much bigger now. What had started with 17 people had grown into a network of hundreds. They called themselves ghosts because they existed in the spaces the Dominion couldn't see. Jai-Ho walked through the main area where people worked at different stations. Some built weapons, others repaired equipment. In one corner, Hannah ran her lab, studying Dominion biology and technology. "How's the new project coming?" Jai-Ho asked her. Hannah looked up from her microscope. She had dark circles under her eyes from working too many hours. "The logic bombs are ready. Taiwan's code combined with my biological disruptors should create enough confusion in their network to give us a 10-minute window." 10 minutes to get in and out, Jai-Ho said. "It will have to be enough." "Make it count," Hannah replied. "We won't get a second chance." Across the world, other resistance cells were fighting their own battles. They communicated through Sung Min's shadow network, a system that hid messages in the background noise of the Dominion's own communications. "Tokyo Group reports success," Sung Min told Jai-Ho during their daily briefing. "They managed to redirect a food shipment to the human work camp in Osaka." "Good," Jai-Ho said. "What about the European cells?" Sung Min's face darkened. "Not good. London's cell went dark 3 days ago. We think they were discovered." Jai-Ho closed his eyes briefly. Another group gone. Another blow to their fragile network. "Berlin is still active," Sung Min continued. "And they sent us some interesting information. The Dominion has brought in someone new. A specialist." "What kind of specialist?" "They call him Director Xilex. He's an expert in handling troublesome species." Director Xilex arrived at the Seoul Command Center in a ship darker than any seen before. Unlike other Dominion leaders who relied on machines to speak human languages, Xilex had learned to speak perfect Korean. "Your methods have been inefficient," he told the local Dominion commander. "The human resistance persists because you allow it to." "We have processed millions," the commander defended. "The work proceeds according to schedule. Yet these ghosts continue to disrupt operations." Xilex walked to the window overlooking the vast mining operation. "They adapt. They hide. They use methods we cannot predict." "What do you suggest?" asked the commander. Xilex turned, his 6-fingered hand tapping a small device. A hologram appeared, showing a machine that looked like a helmet. The new mind-wiping technology. Direct neural reprogramming. We will no longer try to control their bodies. We will simply erase who they are and replace it with who we need them to be. The Resistance discovered the new threat when the first processed humans appeared at work sites. They looked the same, but something was deeply wrong. They no longer showed emotions. They reported other humans who worked slowly. They had no memory of their past lives. It's worse than death, Hannah said after examining video of the processed workers. They found a way to erase everything that makes a person who they are. Can it be reversed? Jai-ho asked. Hannah shook her head. I don't know. We would need to capture one of the mind-wiping machines to study it. Taiwan, who had been analyzing Dominion communications, spoke up. There's a new processing center being set up near the old Incheon airport. They're bringing in the mind-wiping equipment tomorrow. Jai-ho looked at his team. Then we have 1 day to prepare a raid. The plan was simple but dangerous. A small team would infiltrate the processing center before the equipment was fully online. They would steal what they could and destroy the rest. This is too risky, some men argued during planning. We should wait, gather more intelligence. There's no time, Jai-ho replied. Every day, more people are processed. Soon, there won't be enough free humans left to fight. Some men nodded reluctantly. I'll lead the tech team. We'll need to hack their security systems to get you inside. Good. Taiwan will go with me. Hannah stays here to prepare for what we bring back. None of them mentioned the obvious. Many would not return. The night of the raid, everything went wrong from the start. The Dominion had doubled security. New sensors detected their approach. Alarms sounded before they even reached the facility. Abort, Jai-ho ordered through his radio. Everyone fall back. But some men's voice came back tense and determined. Too late. We're already inside the main system. I can shut down their security, but someone needs to reach the central control room to get the data. Get out now, Jai-ho ordered. That's a direct command. There was a pause before some men replied. Sorry, Commander. Sometimes one must be sacrificed for many. The door to the control room will open in 30 seconds. Don't waste it. The connection went dead. Jai-ho and Taiwan fought their way through the facility. Just as some men had promised, doors opened before them and security systems failed at the right moments. He's doing this, Taiwan said as they ran. He's moving through their system, opening our path. In the central control room, they found what they were looking for. The mind-wiping technology was there, not yet assembled. They quickly gathered the key components and all the data they could download. We need to find Sung Min, Jai-ho said as they finished. Taiwan's face was grim. I've been tracking his signal. They have him. East Wing, processing area. The processing area was filled with humans waiting in lines to be mind-wiped. Dominion guards stood at every corner. In the center, already strapped to a machine, was Sung Min. We can't reach him, Taiwan whispered from their hiding place. There are too many guards. Jai-ho watched helplessly as the machine was lowered onto Sung Min's head. His friend's eyes found his across the room. For one moment, they looked at each other. Then Sung Min smiled slightly and closed his eyes as the machine activated. We have to go, Taiwan said, pulling Jai-ho's arm. We can't help him now. Jai-ho didn't move. I don't leave people behind. If we're captured or killed, his sacrifice means nothing. The resistance needs what we've learned. Finally, Jai-ho turned away. We'll come back for him. I promise. 2 weeks later, they did just that. A larger team, better prepared, broke into the facility where processed humans were held before assignment. They found Sung Min among them, his eyes empty, his face blank. He's gone, Hannah said after examining him at the base. The mind-wiping was nearly complete. Nearly, Jai-ho asked. There are fragments, pieces of memory buried deep. It's like they tried to erase a book by burning it, but a few pages survived. Jai-ho sat beside his friend's bed. Some men stared at the ceiling, not recognizing anything around him. Can you recover those fragments? Jai-ho asked. Maybe, with time, and with what we learned from the stolen technology. As if responding to their voices, Sung Min suddenly spoke. His words were jumbled, confused. The bodies. They need. The fix. Dying. Jai-Ho leaned closer. What is he saying? Hannah's eyes widened. I think he accessed Dominion data during the mind-wiping. He's remembering their secrets. She grabbed her tablet and began recording. Sung Min's broken voice continued. Genetic. Failure. Humans have. The answer. Dominion dying. Jai-Ho and Hannah looked at each other as understanding dawned. That's why they're here, Hannah whispered. The Dominion is dying, and somehow, we have what they need to survive. For the first time in 5 years of fighting, Jai-Ho saw a real chance for victory. Not just survival, but a way to take back their world. Now we know their weakness, he said. Now we can fight back. They're dying. Hannah explained to the resistance leaders gathered around the meeting table. 1 month had passed since they rescued Sung Min. In that time, Hannah had worked day and night to piece together the fragments of information in his damaged mind. The Dominion species is facing extinction, she continued. They've been genetically engineering themselves for thousands of years, pushing for greater intelligence and longer lives. But they went too far. How does this involve us? Asked one of the resistance leaders from the Japan cell. Hannah pointed to the screen showing DNA structures. Human DNA contains something they need. We have genetic diversity they lost long ago. We adapt naturally to our environment. They can't. Jai-Ho, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke. So they didn't come here just to take our resources. They came for us. For our DNA. Yes, Hannah nodded. They're harvesting human genetic material, looking for a cure to save their species. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. This changes everything, Jai-Ho said. 2 days later, Jai-Ho and Taiwan stood on a hill overlooking a massive Dominion research facility. It had once been Seoul's largest hospital. Now it was surrounded by high walls and guard towers. That's where they're doing the main genetic research, Taiwan said, lowering his binoculars. According to the plans we recovered, the central labs are underground. Can we get inside? Jai-Ho asked. Not by force. Security is too tight. Taiwan hesitated, but Hannah has another idea. Jai-Ho turned to him. What kind of idea? She wants to go in as a processed worker. The facility needs human lab assistants. If she can get assigned there, she could access their research directly. Jai-Ho's face hardened. Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. She already volunteered. And she's right. It's our best chance to learn exactly what they're doing. Jai-Ho stared at the facility in the distance. He had already lost too many people. The thought of sending Hannah into the heart of enemy territory made his stomach twist. But he knew she was right. We need to make it look real, he finally said. And we need a way to get her out fast if things go wrong. Hannah stood in line with other captured humans, waiting to be processed for work assignment. Her hair had been cut short. Her face was dirty. She looked just like any other human caught by Dominion patrols. The mind-wiping machine at the front of the line wasn't fully functional. The resistance had made sure of that by introducing a subtle flaw in its programming. It would appear to process subjects, but would leave their minds intact. When it was Hannah's turn, she forced herself to stay calm as the helmet lowered onto her head. There was pain, brief but intense, and then it was over. She kept her face blank, her eyes empty, just as they had practiced. Processing complete, announced the Dominion operator. Subject shows high intelligence pattern. Assigned to Research Facility 7, Laboratory Assistant Group. Hannah was loaded onto a transport with other processed workers. As the doors closed, she allowed herself one small breath of relief. Phase 1 complete. For 3 weeks, Hannah worked inside the research facility. Each night, she sent coded messages back to the resistance using a tiny transmitter hidden in her tooth. The device, created by Taiwan, sent signals that piggybacked on the Dominion's own communications network. They have thousands of human genetic samples, she reported. They're testing them in combination with their own DNA. Some experiments are showing promise. How long until they find what they need? Jeho asked during their nightly communication. Hard to say. Weeks, maybe months. But there's something else. What? They're not just looking for a cure. They're preparing something bigger, something called the integration. I don't know what it means yet. Keep looking, Jeho instructed. But be careful. Your extraction is scheduled for 3 days from now. I need more time, Hana insisted. I'm close to accessing their main database. Jeho wanted to argue, but he knew how important this was. 3 more days. That's all. Back at the Resistance base, Ta-1 had made a breakthrough with the mind-wiping technology. It works both ways, he explained excitedly to Jeho. The same technology they used to erase human consciousness could potentially be used to upload human thought patterns into their systems. What would that do? Jeho asked. Imagine introducing human emotions, dreams, creativity, all the things their logical minds can't process, directly into their network. It would be like a virus to them. Their systems would crash, maybe even their neural connections. Jeho considered this. Could it work on their main command systems? In theory, yes, but we'd need access to their central network hub. Where is it? Ta-1 pulled up a map on his tablet. That's the problem. It's in orbit, the Dominion command station. It controls all their operations on Earth. Jeho stared at the image of the space station. It seemed impossible. But then, everything they had accomplished so far had seemed impossible once. Find a way, he said. On her final day at the research facility, Hana took her biggest risk. While working late in the lab, she used a stolen access code to enter the chief scientist's private office. She had less than 5 minutes before security would notice. Working quickly, she connected her hidden device to the main computer and began downloading files. As the data transferred, she scanned through the files on screen. What she saw made her blood run cold. Diagrams of human brains connected to alien technology, detailed plans for transferring consciousness, notes about host compatibility, and neural integration. The truth hit her with horror. The Dominion wasn't just seeking genetic material. They were planning to transfer their consciousness into human bodies. It wasn't a cure they wanted. It was survival by taking over human hosts. A sudden noise made her turn. A Dominion scientist stood in the doorway, staring at her with its large, empty eyes. "You are not processed," it said in its flat voice. "You are aware." Hana froze. Her cover was blown. The extraction team wasn't due until tomorrow. She was alone. The alien stepped forward. "You are part of the Resistance." Hana backed away. "Are you going to call security?" The alien tilted its head, a strangely human gesture. "No." Hana blinked in surprise. "Why not?" "Because not all of us agree with the integration plan. Some of us believe there must be another way." The alien moved to the computer and typed rapidly. "I will complete your download. You have 4 minutes to reach the service exit. The cameras will be disabled." "Why are you helping me?" Hana asked. "Because extinction is coming for both our species if we continue this path." The alien looked at her directly. "Some of us want cooperation, not conquest." Jeho paced anxiously at the extraction point. Hana was late. The small team he had brought waited in tense silence, weapons ready. "We should go," one of them finally said. "It's too dangerous to stay longer." 5 more minutes, Jeho insisted. Just as he spoke, a figure emerged from the shadows. Hana ran toward them, clutching a small device in her hand. "Go," she shouted. "Now." "They're right behind me." They barely made it to their hidden transport before Dominion security forces flooded the area. As they sped away into the night, Hana handed Jeho the device. "I got everything," she said, breathing hard. "Their research, their plans, everything." "What did you find?" Jeho asked. Hana's face was grim. "The worst possible news. They're not just taking our DNA. They're planning to take our bodies. They want to transfer their consciousness into human hosts as their final solution." The transport fell silent. The horror of what she described sank in. How close are they? Ta-1 asked. Weeks away from the first successful transfer. They're calling it the integration. Jai-Ho's hands tightened into fists. Then we have weeks to stop them. There's more, Hannah said. Not all the Dominion agree with this plan. I met one who helped me escape. There's a division among them. Some want partnership with humans, not extinction. Jai-Ho looked at his team. The situation was more complex than they had imagined, but also offered new possibilities. We need a new plan, he said. If the Dominion is divided, we can use that, and we need to strike at their heart. He turned to Ta-1. Is your idea for the mind-wiping technology ready? Ta-1 nodded. Almost. But we'd need access to their central system. Then we're going to take the fight to them, Jai-Ho said firmly. To their orbital command station. Hannah looked at him in shock. That's impossible. Jai-Ho smiled grimly. They thought erasing humanity was possible too. Let's prove them wrong again. This is insane, Ta-1 said as he examined the captured Dominion shuttle. The small spacecraft sat in a hidden underground hangar that had once been a subway maintenance facility. Even if we can fly it, the command station security will detect that we're not Dominion the moment we try to dock. Jai-Ho walked around the shuttle, studying it carefully. That's why we need to make them think we are Dominion. The plan had taken 2 weeks to develop. Resistance cells around the world had coordinated their efforts, gathering intelligence and resources. They had one chance to stop the integration before it began. The neural emulator is ready, Hannah announced, entering the hangar with a metal case. Inside were 6 devices that looked like thin silver headbands. These will broadcast Dominion thought patterns. It should fool their scanners long enough for us to dock. Jai-Ho nodded. And the upload package. Ta-1 tapped his tablet. Complete. Once we connect to their main system, it will introduce human consciousness patterns directly into their network. All we need is 5 minutes of access to their central core, which will be the most heavily guarded part of the station, Jai-Ho reminded them. This mission is volunteer only. Anyone who wants to stay behind can. No one moved. Then we leave in 6 hours, Jai-Ho said. Get ready. The journey to the command station was tense but uneventful. The neural emulators worked, allowing them to pass through the initial security scans. Ta-1 piloted the shuttle, having spent days studying Dominion flight controls. Approaching docking bay, he announced as the massive station filled their view screen. It was a dark ring-shaped structure with thousands of lights glowing along its surface. Remember, Jai-Ho told the small team, our goal is the central core. Everything else is secondary. The shuttle docked with a soft thud. So far, their disguise was working. They moved quickly into the station, wearing stolen Dominion environmental suits that concealed their human forms. Life support level shows Earth-compatible atmosphere, Hannah whispered, checking her scanner. They must have adapted parts of the station for their human research subjects. Which way to the core? Jai-Ho asked. Ta-1 pointed down a long corridor, 3 levels down, then east through the main research sector. Let's move. They made it through 2 security checkpoints using access codes from their intelligence data. The station was huge, with hundreds of Dominion moving through its corridors. Most paid no attention to them, focused on their own tasks. We're approaching the research sector, Ta-1 whispered. Security will be tighter from here. As if on cue, an alarm began to sound. A mechanical voice announced, security breach detected. Unknown biological signatures in Section 7. All units respond. They've detected us, Jai-Ho said. Run. They abandoned stealth and raced through the corridors. Dominion security forces appeared ahead, blocking their path. Jai-Ho led the team down a side passage, using the station map they had memorized. This way, he shouted, firing his weapon at the ceiling to create a barrier of debris behind them. The core is 2 levels down, Ta-1 called, checking his device. We need to find another route. Hana pointed to a maintenance shaft. There, they forced the door open and climbed down the narrow shaft, emerging in a dimly lit corridor. The alarm still blared throughout the station, but they were temporarily out of sight. "We're close," Taiwan said. "The core should be through those doors." The massive doors ahead were sealed shut. As they approached, a voice came from behind them. "Stop where you are." They turned to see Director Xilex standing with 6 Dominion guards, all with weapons pointed at them. "I've been waiting for you," Xilex said, his voice oddly calm. "The human resistance, finally within my grasp." Jaiho assessed their situation. They were trapped, outnumbered, and outgunned. But they had come too far to surrender now. "Your integration plan will fail," Jaiho said, stalling for time as Taiwan worked on his tablet behind his back. "Humans won't be your vessels." Xilex tilted his head. "You misunderstand our purpose." "We understand perfectly," Hana replied. "We've seen your research. You want to transfer your consciousness into our bodies because your own species is dying." "Yes, we are dying," Xilex admitted, "but you don't understand why we chose Earth specifically." He took a step closer. "Out of thousands of inhabited worlds, why did we come here?" Jaiho frowned. "For our genetic diversity." "Not just that." Xilex gestured around them. "Look at what we've become, a species of pure logic. No emotion, no creativity, no joy or pain or love. We engineered those qualities out of ourselves generations ago, believing they made us weak." Hannah's eyes widened with sudden understanding. "You chose us because we still have those qualities." "Yes," Xilex said. "Humans represent what we once were, beings of both logic and emotion, technology and nature. We didn't just come for your DNA, but for what makes you human." Behind his back, Jaiho felt Taiwan press something into his hand, a small device with a single button. "The integration isn't just about survival," Xilex continued. "It's about becoming whole again." "By erasing us," Jaiho said. "By joining with you," Xilex corrected. "Though I admit, not all of my kind see it that way. The hardliners want simple replacement, your bodies, our minds. But some of us want true integration, a merging that preserves both species." Jaiho exchanged a quick glance with his team. This confirmed what Hana had discovered. The Dominion was divided. "Now," Taiwan whispered. Jaiho pressed the button. The lights throughout the corridor flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. In the confusion, they made their move. The fight was brief but violent. In the darkness, the humans had the advantage. They were used to fighting without perfect visibility. The Dominion, reliant on their technology, were disoriented. Jaiho tackled Xilex to the ground. The alien was stronger than he looked, but Jaiho had years of combat experience. They struggled in the darkness, neither willing to yield. "You can't stop the integration," Xilex hissed. "It's already beginning." "We're not trying to stop integration," Jaiho replied, pinning the alien down. "We're changing the terms." The emergency lights came on, bathing the corridor in a red glow. Jaiho looked around. His team had subdued the guards. Taiwan was already at the core doors, connecting his device to the access panel. "I'm in," he called. "Uploading now." "What are you doing?" Xilex demanded. "Introducing humanity to your network," Jaiho explained, pulling the alien to his feet, "not as hosts for your minds, but as partners." The doors to the core slid open. Inside was a massive chamber filled with glowing technology, the central brain of the Dominion network. "You can't do this," Xilex warned. "Human consciousness will overload our systems." "That's the point," Hana said. "Either you learn to work with human minds, their creativity, their emotions, their unpredictability, or your network crashes completely." Taiwan's device connected to the core, beginning the upload. The station trembled as the human consciousness patterns, dreams, emotions, art, music, poetry, flooded into the logical Dominion network. "What have you done?" Tylex whispered as the lights flickered throughout the station. The effects were immediate and far-reaching. Throughout Earth, Dominion systems began to fail. Ships lost control. Processing centers shut down. The perfect, logical network that had enslaved humanity was overwhelmed by human consciousness. In the chaos, Jaho used the station's communication system to broadcast a message to all Dominion forces. "Attention, Dominion. Your network has been compromised. Your command structure is failing. But we offer you a choice, not extinction, but cooperation. Humans are not your salvation as slaves or hosts, but as partners. Your logic combined with our creativity, your technology with our diversity. Together, we can both survive." As the message played, Jaho turned to Silex. "Now you have a choice. Work with us as equals, or lose everything." 1 year later, Jaho stood on a hill overlooking the rebuilt city of Seoul. The landscape had changed. Dominion technology now worked alongside human innovation. The great extraction machines were gone, replaced by clean energy systems that benefited both species. Hannah joined him, carrying new research data. "The genetic cure is working," she said. "The Dominion won't need human hosts after all. They found a way to adapt their own biology using our genetic principles." "And the network integration?" Jaho asked. "Better than we hoped. Their systems have evolved to handle human thought patterns. They've even started to regain some of the emotional capacity they engineered away centuries ago." In the distance, a mixed group of humans and Dominion worked together on a new building. It was still strange to see, but becoming more common every day. "They tried to erase us," Jaho said, watching the scene. "Instead, they found what they were really looking for all along." "And what was that?" Hannah asked. Jaho smiled slightly, a reminder of who they once were, and who they could be again. He looked up as a transport passed overhead, a human pilot and Dominion navigator working in perfect sync. "Now we make the rules together," he said. "A better way forward for both our kinds." The sun set over the new Earth, neither fully human nor Dominion, but something new. A world where two species that once tried to destroy each other had found a way to save each other instead.